This is Show versus Business, where pop culture meets pop money, with your host, the real Theo Harvey and Mr. Benja. Mr. Benja, what is going on?
As always, Theo, we got something good and tasty for you, and we're going to be jumping into the Apple Worldwide Developer Conference. We're talking about some AI, we're talking about some Apple intelligence, we're talking about some artificial intelligence, we're talking about EM getting in the mix. That's Elon Musk, by the way. He's a little hot under the collar about this whole thing, starting up some static on the Apple streams. Might kick Apple off of Twitter. I think it may have already happened. I don't know. Things are happening, but there's some interesting technology and things on the business side that we want to cover there. So we're going to get into Apple. Also, we got a little bit of Mr. Beast. We're going to talk a little bit about AI in general and the Acolyte. We got to bring it up. Star Wars is here and things are just happening. And Tubi's out there too. So we got a little information on those guys, and we may sprinkle a little more information in there and some other stories, but that's basically what's been happening this week. How does that sound?
Mr. Benja sounds extremely juicy. I'm ready
Juicy.
to get into it. So we can talk about all this wonderful things, man. Yeah, Mr. Benja, my week was interesting. I got the chance to go out to Vegas. Always interesting when you live in the East Coast of the United States and you travel to the West Coast. Your time zone's all messed up. Your sleeping patterns get really screwed up, especially for someone who gets up so early. I usually get up around 4:30, 5 o'clock every morning on the East Coast. So it's just funny going to Vegas and trying to keep my sleep pattern and finding myself up at 2 in the morning in Las Vegas time, getting up to go to work or start working and
Yeah.
to get coffee and seeing people coming back from the club, half drunk, throwing up, whatever. And I'm just as chipper as can be because I have my Americano, right, with 3 Splenda. So I'm super excited about that. Yeah, man, Vegas is always fun. I've been to Vegas too many times, Mr. Benja. I used to go, obviously super excited early days when I was younger. I used to go internships out in California. I'm going to Vegas, baby. But after going somewhere upwards of 40 plus times in my lifetime, it's just another place, Mr. Benja. Are you a big Vegas guy?
I'm not a big Vegas guy, but I found some behind the scenes stuff going on in Los Angeles and San Diego when I was out here. So I went out to Vegas one time and started searching for the behind the scenes stuff there. And I took a trip to New York and did that same thing there too. And yeah, man, it made Vegas far better. Like I was told, hey, if you're going to play blackjack, listen, at this time of day, go down to Old Vegas, go to this restaurant. There's this guy there, talk to him. After he gets off his shift, he likes to play blackjack with people. I'm like, what? It was just this weird thing. But me and my friend Jeff, you remember Jeff,
Mhm.
we went out to Old Vegas and yeah, sat down and played blackjack with these guys. And they brought us ham sandwiches and stuff in the kitchen. It's like, yeah, we're not going to serve all these sandwiches today. So we just give them to anybody who's here. It was just like finding the really good parts of any city is good, but Vegas was particularly interesting. Some great shops, find great deals, interesting little hideaways and oases in the wild and crazy desert, man. I'll go back. I'll go back
I
soon.
love it. I love it. Yeah, you really got to be intentional to your point if you're going to go to Vegas and do that. Like sometimes I'm thinking, oh, I would love to maybe shoot a machine gun or do something like that, but I never have time because I'm just not intentional. I love what you're saying. You went to Vegas, you had some ham sandwiches and someone's back room playing blackjack. That's just a story that people don't
Oh yeah.
expect from a Vegas story, right?
Yeah.
So, I love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I always like it's fascinating because it's number one, there's always people from all over the country, over the world. And they always have conferences there, right? I was at a conference. There's 2, 3 other conferences I know of on that side of the strip I was part of and just meeting people from different areas. But I was just fascinating, man. It was just like one of those things that folks really enjoy doing. I know it's like a weekend thing for some people out in LA. They go out there to bring their drinks, hang out the pool and stuff like that. But yeah, man, it's one of those things that I'm fascinated though by because just the bigness of everything, right? All the lights and everything is just so gaudy and just over the top. And I just really love all that kind of stuff, man. So just to see that a little bit, and then you stay on the top floor of the hotel and you're looking down the strip and you feel like you're God or something. So those are cool, man. But like I said, but I was there, really had a chance to just think. I love those early morning when you think and have yourself the time to yourself. So those are always good to me. But yeah, man, Vegas is very interesting time, man. I wish I had some more exciting stories, but nope, didn't gamble, didn't go to any exotic places. So I just,
Yeah.
did my thing and just left. But it was cool.
Very cool, man. So yeah, this week was pretty good for me too. I didn't travel physically. I told you it's the middle of the year. I do the whole refresh from the new year kind of thing, right? I do a mid-year check-in and all that. Man, your boy Dan Sullivan caught me with another one. I was just going back flipping through some things, and he's got these books that he puts out and everything, and I was just flipping through them and turned on one of his podcasts, and he started talking about how he doesn't deal with anything that doesn't fascinate him anymore. He's just, and it was an interesting take on the whole 80-20 kind of thing. Like we usually think of
Mhm.
80-20 in terms of getting results on your investments, a return on your investments of time, energy, work, whatever. But he was like, yeah, I'm only in that 20% of things that fascinate me. If it doesn't fascinate me, I'm not dealing with it. He's like, yeah, I used to write books just in a straightforward way, but now I get on a bunch of podcasts. I get on all these interviews and I like to talk. And then I take all those and then tell somebody, hey, see if you can get a book outline and out of this and frame it around this. And he's just going about doing only things that fascinate him. And it's a really interesting way of thinking about the 80-20. Like he wants all his time, his 20% time,
Absolutely, man. Definitely.
you
It's
know,
definitely one of those
that
things that,
go ahead.
no, I agree. It's definitely one of those things that I'm thinking about, like how I set my time up. But when you think about Dan Sullivan, what specific things were you going into there?
Basically, you know how in any endeavor, there's parts of it you like and there's parts of it you don't like. Like if you play basketball, let's say you're just a basketball star, there's a whole process that goes into it. There's the workouts, there's the drills, there's the studying the tapes, there's the actual game, there's the fans, there's the traveling. There's so much involved with the whole ecosystem of basketball. So when you say you're into basketball and you like basketball, there's a lot of it. And if you can take that one little part that you really like, whether it's the physical playing, whether it's the planning out, and he's basically saying, yeah, I base everything around the parts that fascinate me. And it's not that he tolerates or copes with the other pieces of it, but he makes those pieces like enjoyable escapades towards the next part that he likes. If he doesn't like watching tapes particularly, but he knows that it's going to make it the next game better, he's like, all right, so we're going to watch these tapes and these tapes are going to let me play this better. In fact, let me play the tapes while I'm doing my dribble drills because that's what I like to do. So he's watching tapes while he's doing the dribble drills and he starts to make this whole cycle. In fact, I've even readjusted my sick chain ideology. That's the so I can chain. I do this so I can do this, so I can do this, so I can do this. I've even adjusted it a bit to take on this basketball metaphor where it's like, hey, listen, I love all parts of it, even the parts I don't like. I love them because they point me towards that 20% that I do.
Mhm.
And I don't have it fully formulated as a concept or everything yet, but it's really been blowing my mind how he organizes his life and really focuses on just the things that fascinate him.
No, I love it. I will say this though, and it's something similar that what Alex Hormozi's doing too. I do feel like once you get over a certain success level, or in Dan Sullivan's case, he's what, 75 years old, a certain age level, there's a certain amount of I don't give a F
Yes,
mentality that
yes.
you get. When you're starting off, I don't think you can have that same kind of mentality, right? You just gotta hustle. But
Mhm.
so Alex Hormozi, he changed his whole strategy, right? He's just doing strictly, he was doing some entertainment stuff, mixed in with some of the education stuff. But he got rid of all his entertainment stuff. And he's being
Mhm.
very strict. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, very strict on his content. It's mostly business education, even the shorts, right? Nothing,
Mhm.
he's not talking about how to eat Chipotle for cheap or something like that. He's just like strictly how do you get a sales team or how do you
Yeah.
make your marketing better? And he can afford to, let's be honest, he's got over
Mhm.
2 million followers. And so to him, it makes more money for him just to talk specifically to his audience. He's already grew his audience big enough where it's just, let's just talk strictly brass tacks. Likewise, I would say the same thing with Dan Sullivan. He has a luxury to design the life that he wants. But I say that to say though, I think what his mindset is correct though. You're right. If you can get into that mental framework of, hey, I can go through this hard part because it's gonna give me that 20% that I really want. And I think that's a great framework to have, a mental model, if you will. And I think, matter of fact, the example you just gave about basketball, I've been doing that with my son. All right. He doesn't like dribbling drills. So I say, hey, why are you doing dribble drills? Why don't you watch this video while you're doing it? Don't think about it. So he can get to the next level. He likes to shoot. Do these dribbling drills first, and then you can shoot. So things like that, I think that mental model is helpful. Dan Sullivan comes across as a person that doesn't get 2 Fs at this point in his career.
He does not.
It's like, matter of fact, I don't think he wants to write books. I mean, if he could do it, like you said, he go on podcasts, talk to people, and based on that, he'll write a book or have the audio version of the book created around that because he's been doing it for so long. But anyway, I just thought that was interesting. Just definitely, I think, and then Alex Hormozy talked about this too. It's like sometimes when people are at that certain success level, they're looking at a beginner with their knowledge of their head now, as opposed to what it was actually like being a beginner. Oh yeah, do this, but wait a minute, the beginner doesn't have this resource or that skill set or all this to do what works, but won't work for them at this level in their life because they just don't have those skills yet. If that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And I hear what you're saying. Definitely. The thing that I was keying in on is actually when he was explaining his book process and doing the only thing that he likes to do, I actually started recognizing that's how I felt when I was in high school and college and I was programming. I was getting ready for the game industry. It's like all the parts of the process were fun to me. And I was like, how do I get back to that? And then I hear Dan Sullivan talking. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe I've just lost track of that, how the big picture works out because I get so focused on this little 20% that I forget that no, there is the 20%, yes, but it's propped up by the 80%. How can I, in my head, make the 80% relevant to the 20% that I'm trying to do, if that makes any sense? So yeah, it was just in the basketball example was just something that came up. But yeah, even when I was back programming, it's hated going through and doing certain debug practices, but I had fun with the whole thing because I was like, man, I'm learning this, I'm learning that. And now looking back, I'm like, okay, let me take a part that's not fun for me and do everything I can to relate that to the fun part. Let me do everything I can to mitigate the problems with it. Like I'm writing right now. Let me get a awesome chair, nice little back pillows, and I get my little peach tea that I like to drink. I only drink that when I'm writing. And suddenly it's this part that I don't like becomes a little bit of an adventure. And I'm like, all right, sit in my chair with the nice back pillow and the peach tea. I can do this part of the writing chore. And it's not much of a chore anymore. It's just I know that it's fun because it's part of the whole thing. As I said, I don't have the words for it.
Yeah, you made like a ritual, right? Hey, for me, I have a ritual. So when I do my most productive work is when I get up, do my stretching, my little calisthenics, then I go put my shirt on, then I go put my bag, then I go to the coffee shop that's open at 5 o'clock. And I just sit there and I'm in that zone, baby. And you get yourself in that zone. And this is what I do. And then when you don't have it, you miss it. You're like, oh, like I traveled this week. What Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts is open, or where can I go? They don't have the seat I like, so I'm all messed up. I can't do anything.
Oh man.
So yeah, I get it, man. I love it. I love it, though. So let's go, boy. Let's go.
Yeah, yes. Speaking of things that we like and don't like, I heard you had some issues. Not issues. I shouldn't frame it that way. How's your Star Wars Acolyte going?
Mr. Benja, what is going on with the Star Wars fans? I'm watching. This is June Apocalypse, right? There's a lot of stuff out there right now when it comes to watching. The Acolyte is out now, set 100 years before Phantom Menace, set in the period of the High Republic. Jedi's are ruling everything and they're dominating. And the fandom will not like any of these shows lately, man. Obviously, some deservedly. Talking about you, Obi-Wan. Talking about you, Book of Boba Fett. But I'm having an open mind going to this series, right? I'm just like, okay, this is a new period. They're gonna do some interesting things with it. Let's check it out. But man, the fandom they already had their guns blazing, Mr. Benja. First of all, I think they're looking at the actresses who were involved in it, right? We talked about one of the actresses who was
Amanda Listenberg.
Yep. and who is, what's the term, the non-binary, and is very vocal in her politics. The director, Leslie Headland, she's lesbian, married to a woman, and very left-leaning in her politics. It's when you look at the reviews, it's like they're putting that print on it. We talked about this last week with Eric Kripke, the showrunner of The Boys.
Right.
Really clearly he's putting his thumb on the scale about boys, and I think we're both somewhat against that. But before the show was even out, and she didn't say it, and the writer and all that, and the actresses, they're not saying anything. There's an agenda behind Star Wars. It's just Star Wars. But man, these guys are coming gun blazing, and they're nitpicking everything that's wrong with this show. And I get it, but Star Wars has never been about science accuracy. Let's be real. Number one,
Right.
they're nitpicking things like, why is there a fire in space, or why do they have the same hairstyle when they're like 10-year-old kids, and then now the two girls are like 20-year-olds. I'm like, what are y'all talking about here? And so to me, that tells me there's an agenda here. Some of the bigger podcasters out there, they just, this kills Star Wars and all this other stuff. And so when I went in with open mind watching The Acolyte, first episode was okay, and the third episode was one of the ones that everyone was complaining about. And I watched it. Wasn't that bad, Mr. Benja. I had to watch it beforehand because I was scared a little bit, because I was like, oh, they're gonna put some hidden agenda in here, that I don't want my kids to watch, because we've been watching the show together. I said, I need to watch this before them just to see. I'm like, what are they talking about? There's nothing bad in here like that. And I think there's some agenda with this toxic fandom within Star Wars community, unfortunately, that's just really trying to derail everything about Star Wars. And this is one I'm speaking as someone who's been critical of Star Wars. We talked about Kathleen Kennedy and her messing up of all the prequels and the sequels and all this mess. But Mr. Benja, as one who in a previous life, he got interacted in the fandom, and you hinted at this with some of the stuff we talked about in the podcast. What's your take on Star Wars fandom right now? And should the Acolyte get so much heat from what you've seen?
It doesn't matter what gets put out now, it's going to get more attention. And that's what happens when you're going along like at your regular pace, and then you do something that people don't like, and then you start defending what people don't like. And it's, oh, you're going to do this. And then you get into a back and forth. And now it's harder to look at just the content or the art by itself and not consider. I didn't mean content in terms of like social media content. I've been getting flamed for that lately, so I had to correct that. I meant the material. Anyway, once you get into this back and forth, it's hard to back away from. And so stuff that may have been innocuous before, you have to take care, in my opinion, you have to take care to not make that the focal point. Like at some point, I remember they were just getting into the whole social justice kind of banter and discussion around Star Wars. And then Kathleen Kennedy shows up with the Force is Female shirt. And I was like, why would you do that? Not that anybody would have cared, but at this moment, why would you do that? I'm trying to think of okay, if things were going a certain way in a movie and you wore a red and white shirt that said becoming great again, you're like, Was that a reference to Make America Great Again? Why'd you wear that? What did you do that for? Somebody should have said something about that. Is Star Wars political? Yes, obviously. But we've had the discussion about the politics and keeping the whole message out of the story, making sure that you present a story, and if somebody wants to take a message from it, they can. But we're in an era now where people are doing it intentionally. So this type of pushback is what you're going to get. And stylistically, I'm not a fan of pumping a message like that. I am all for having a story to tell and maybe making parallels, but I'm not for promoting it as anything that would outshine the world and the lore that I am putting forth. I do not ever, personally as a creator, want someone to go in and say, hey, this is a story about, and not talk about the story. And that's what you
Mhm.
get when you have Star Wars. Hey, here's a Star Wars story. What's it about? It's very diverse. And that's the story that's ahead of the actual material. And to me, that's a problem. So I think there's I think there's something that Disney either needs to work out or let go of or do something with, because right now it's just not working for the populace.
I would just say this, but it's just, I'm just looking. While you were talking, I was like pulled up all these Star Wars actresses, right? And so a lot of them have problems with Star Wars, especially they had a bigger role, right? They have a smaller role, whatever. You look at Natalie Portman, she was derided just from the acting standpoint. Those whole prequels were derided. But let's be honest, a lot of people grew up with those prequels and they're canon. Some of these folks, they love them more than the original prequel, right?
Mhm.
The original sequel, a trilogy that we grew up on. So some people really love the prequels more, but she got derided. Obviously, Daisy Ridley, right? Her portrayal of Rey left her traumatized a little bit, right? So
Yeah.
she's out of it. Kelly Marie Tran, who was Rose Tycho in the sequels, she got vilified
Yeah.
online, right? The actress that played Third Sister, I don't know if you know, she got pretty filleted in the Obi-Wan series, right?
Yeah.
So the list goes on, and obviously the latest one is Amandla. I'm gonna say it right one day. Steinberg, right? And so I'm just wondering, is something that's good for Star Wars is keep pushing and doing different things. And not every woman was vilified. There was some that, like for instance, what was it? Rogue One, the actress that played the lead in that, no one really had complaints about her. Felicity Jones, she plays Jane Erso. I think that was a pretty good portrayal. But it just goes to show, it's just, man, what is really going on, man? And to me, I'm like, let George Lucas be the ultimate sayer of what these are about. And he said it in so many words. He said the Star Wars is for 12-year-olds. And I think what's happening is like people who are our age, who grew up on the original trilogy, or the ones who grew up on the prequel series, the trilogy, they're like, this is mine and you can't play my toys. And so it should be about Luke Skywalker and that's it. And we go too far afield of that. It's crazy. I don't want to learn about witches and Star Wars and all this other stuff. But it can't be one thing. It has to expand the lore. And I think, you'll have challenges when it does that. And so can the fandom can't sustain itself, or you're gonna just have all these different fractions that's just
Yeah.
fighting each other. Because you don't see this in Star Trek. That's all I'm saying. It's
I,
just
I don't think that's happening though.
what do you mean?
I don't think that's what's happening. And I've heard this argument from people that how can you expand? Sure, expand the universe, but suddenly, as I said, when you go out and talk about these things, suddenly they're talking about, oh, it's great to see a female Jedi. And suddenly the entire interview becomes about, which is fine, once again, but it's gotten to the point where that's the discussion and not the story. I think if a lot of this stuff were to just happen, as opposed to it being pushed as a message, then I think that it would be just fine.
I
I
would just say this with the Acolyte is not really being pushed, but the people who are against it are saying there is an agenda here because of what's happening. And I'm not gonna go into spoiler territory. Maybe after you watch it, we can go in more deeper territory. But
hold
oh, you have watched it.
on, I haven't watched it, but I've seen the interview and they said where I don't know, and maybe this is the media taking a lot of clips out where they're talking about R2D2 is obviously a lesbian. It's like you hadn't heard that. James, get this one. You hadn't heard that they said the showrunner said R2D2 being a lesbian is canon.
Oh, this is too funny, man. Too funny.
Yeah, it's okay. Like C3PO was the way he was, R2D2, interesting couple. It's almost like Bert and Ernie.
Yes. Yeah. I was thinking the same thing.
And I did get into an argument about this because it was somehow it led into the whole idea of don't tell. What was the old military thing they said? Um,
Oh, don't ask, don't tell, or something like that.
don't ask, don't tell. Yeah, somehow we got into that discussion and it went off the rails. But if you're talking about 12-year-olds, once again, it's for children. Now we're dealing with the society that says, hey, listen, all these things should be talked about to our children. So why not put it in the media? And this is where I do have the rub where it's, yes, okay, fine, talk with them about those things. Media is still the media, the world is still the world. Let them interpret the world as they see it,
Mhm.
not as, hey,
Yeah.
it's canon, R2D2 is lesbian. That just sounds
You guys, you put some links, man. James, make sure we get some links. They're saying R2D2 is a lesbian. But as a parent, yes, I agree, man. That, like I told you about the She-Ra fiasco on Netflix, right? That whole
Mhm.
it was so obviously pointed toward LGBT kind of lifestyles and stuff, which is fine. And I had a conversation with my kids, but after that experience, I've been very weary of just introducing them to just any type of genre storytelling like I did before, because it opens up conversations and questions that I have to explain to them. And you're right, I don't want to see that in my Star Wars. So I would say that's my stance on it. But I'm just talking particularly the Acolyte. We're talking about the fandom in general, and I agree, there
Okay.
have been cases where it was pushed. But if you watch the Acolytes, especially episode 3, there's this big hubbub about what happened there and how it basically did pushes down Anakin as special, in so many words. And so
Right,
you're
right.
like,
I did hear about that.
okay, and you're like, okay. And then I listened to Grace Randolph's take on it. I listened to, I guess, the Critical Drinker or whatever, his kind of standing. I don't know if you listen to his
Mhm.
podcast. He talks a look from the right standpoint about it. And then I listened to a guy who was a little like down the middle, but very nerdy. He knew his Star Wars stuff, the one I sent you.
Mhm.
I forgot what it's called, Mechanical Tech or something, but we'll look it up. But yeah, and I'm just like, you know what? I think I'm leaning toward I think we're just bringing too much into Star Wars now, and let's let it stand for itself and see where the story goes. And just like with, and some is going to be good, some is not going to be not good, some is going to be terrible, and so you just have to let it exist on its own and let the lore grow on its own. But I think to your point, I think people are conflating what the whole issue of Kathleen Kennedy's agenda was, and maybe
Mhm.
still is. Let's be honest, and then was presented to us on a show. And so let's take those out and let's really understand if this is a good show or not without all the hidden agendas.
Yeah. And even the word agenda is charged and loaded. So you got to trust me when I say I am all for this stuff. I am completely against the way the message is being sent over. You know what I mean?
Mm-mm.
I did post up a link here.
To know, hey, this is a lifestyle choice, man. He did it. He does what he
I
wants to
wouldn't
do.
even, I wouldn't even care. I wouldn't even care. But if I go sit in the theater and somebody elbows me, dude, I heard R2D2 has a lesbian scene in this one. I'm like, R2, man. Do what you do. Do what you do.
Anyway, so guys, in comments, look, don't add us, but look, if you like the Acolyte, great. Let us know. If you don't like it, tell us why, man. I'm curious because
Flame me in the
I
comments, man. I want the smoke.
yeah, I want to know what's going on, man. Let's look at Star Wars as just a piece of great storytelling in some cases, some not so, and not take out our personal feelings out of it. And then also let's call the task if there are agendas being pushed. But if they're not, then let's just look at the story for the story's sake. And so that's my concern.
Yeah, see, Star Wars isn't Django, okay? It's not Django Unchained. I'm, in case you thought I was talking about Django Fett. It's not Django Unchained. It's not, I don't know, this didn't present that way to me.
Yeah,
Yes, I use that word with pun intended.
I love it.
This is the kind of reason I'm not on Disney Plus right now anyway. I'm currently engaging in Tubi and Freevi, and it's not that bad. I don't know what's happened to me.
Wait, are you serious? This is legit.
No, it's totally legit. I got on Tubi once a while ago, and I was like,
Mhm.
"This is garbage, man." And then the stuff they were showing me was like the Blacks and UFOs documentary. I'm like, "What in the world?"
James, get that. Blacks and UFOs. We got to
Oh
talk
god,
about
here
that.
we go again. Yeah, it was hot garbage, and I didn't like the ads, the way they played, and that was years ago. I look back at Tubi now, it's not so bad.
No, I just downloaded a couple of weeks ago, and then I have it up now. And yeah, great interface. I did look at some shows previously to see how the ad stuff was. Very impressive, man. These I forgot what they called them. They called there's a term they use for it, but it's like free, free advertising, streaming television.
Mhm.
So yeah, man, these are taking over, man. This is good.
Yeah, and if you can they actually have a pretty solid selection of movies and titles. I'm looking at it now, and they're still showing you the salacious gutter
Yeah.
bin stuff when you log in.
Blacks and UFOs. Yeah, yeah. I see
Yeah,
that.
so they still
Dashiki wearing aliens. I love it.
exactly. There's some goofy s on here, really goofy. And in fact, there's this thing called clickbait. I'm like, I almost want to click it because it looks so cringe. But if you actually do a search and try to find some, let me see, let me do it right now. I'm gonna find some hit movies. Central Intelligence with Kevin Hart and The Rock is on there.
Mm.
You got Scarface. What About Bob? You even got going back to the old stuff like American History X and Sister Act. They picked up a lot of these old ones. Die Hard with a Vengeance, Predator, and these are old things, but Creep Show's on there. So, oh, okay, wow, they have these old classics on there and some new ones. It's foreign films that people are into. The Patriot, much better than it was before. So, Theo, they've got some numbers going on here that kind of surprised me. What are you reading?
Yeah, man. And I think you did some research on this too as well. But the streamer basically edged out Disney Plus, which averaged only about 969,000 viewers. But Tubi, I think that's how many viewers they got. I guess this is in the last quarter, I'm assuming. And so Tubi easily beat out Peacock, Discovery Max, which is Warner Bros. Discovery Max, the Paramount Plus, and even beat out the other fast or free competitors such as Roku and Pluto TV. So it's the only free added supported streaming platform that that that's really dominating. The only one that's beating them is YouTube right now, currently. And so Tubi is just killing it, man. I had to look it up too. I didn't know Tubi was owned by Fox as well. So that was interesting.
Which I'll point out is why there's so much ghetto nonsense trash pushed on there because of the Fox influence. Calling out Fox with that one.
Oh man, Rupert Murdoch strikes again.
Yes.
If you don't know, Fox News, terrible. But anyway, so yeah, Tubi is killing it, man. And who knew? And third quarter revenue for Tubi grew 22% year over year. And this is at a time when the advertising market has been sluggish. This is something that, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think when it comes to, let's be honest, Fox has always been the lead. Remember back in the day, see, what's our age here? Remember we had ABC, NBC, and CBS, right? So this is what you watch. Then came Fox. What's Fox about? Then boom, they hit us with Bart Simpson on Fox, right? Ooh, this is a 12-year-old who says, "Eat my shorts." I love it.
Yeah.
Let's watch more. They came out with Married with Children. Oh, what's this? Wow, this guy's Al Bundy. What's he talking about? And then they came out with the black stuff, right? Then we had A Living Color. We like, oh my goodness. So Fox is not as old hat at this. Yes, it's on your phone and it's streaming, but technically it's not. It's like traditional TV because you're watching ads. And to get butts and eyeballs on your screen, Fox knows how to do that very well. And that makes sense now. Now that I'm thinking about it and speaking out loud, it makes sense that Fox would lead against their competitors in this new free advertising tier of streaming.
Yeah. And also when I was popping around on Fanbase, the other social media app, there's a whole group of people that are filmmakers and creators that are trying to make these low budget films, and they have the whole low budget bootstrap community out there making stuff. And according to them, getting stuff on Tubi is relatively easy. Quality will show that. But apparently Tubi's made it very develop creator friendly. So they've got a whole thing going on here, and I'm gonna keep an eye on them.
I love it, man. I love it. Keep doing it, brother.
Think Mr. Beast is gonna release a Tubi show?
Probably. He's going to be the Kevin Hart of the influencers. Watch. It's going to be everywhere. Mr. Beast.
What is he up to?
Mr. Benja. Mr. Beast is about that money, honey. You know how much he reportedly made this year, or is expected to make this year?
I don't know. I haven't been pocket watching.
Last year, he
100
only made 223 million last
okay.
year. This year, he's expected to make 700 million this year. This is revenue, top line revenue, right? Not what you value that all. This is actual money coming in. What's happening? Jimmy Donaldson, also known as Mr. Beast, is basically has over 278 million followers. I think that's the most YouTube followers. I think it was neck and neck between them and someone else, and he finally beat them. So he's definitely the undisputed king of YouTube and dominates our conversation when it comes to social media influencers because he just made it his reality. But there's been this law case that's been out there. And so just like anything, Trump, Mr. Beast, when you go against the courts, there's a thing called discovery. And so you have to release all your documents. And so this is something probably Mr. Beast doesn't want out there. Because I think a lot of these influencers are just like any celebrity. I'm a man of the people, man. I'm just one of you. But when you look, they have to give up their documents. Then you're like, oh, you're not nothing like me, Mr. Beast. You're making $700 million.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so they and I think and I get it. You want like that separation because you're so much in the public eye. People start seeing your pockets. Now they want to see what's inside your pockets, and so I think that's why Mr. Beast is leery of revealing this information. But yeah, Mr. Benja, maybe we'll put it out there on Instagram. But go check us out, the Show versus Business. But we actually have his financial reporting and how he makes his money and all his different
Mm.
assets. Thanks, shout out to Puck Media for getting this information. But we'll share it out there probably as well. Even though it says confidential and proprietary, there you go. I love the internet. Mr. Benja, so how does he make 223 million last year and then projected to make 700 million this year? We already knew he's just on YouTube, right? So that the advertising piece is going to be huge. But did you know, Mr. Benja, that he also has a production company that's building out? I'm just going to list them all. His production
Okay.
company that's already doing deals with Amazon, creating original content for Amazon Prime, and maybe even like you said, their channel, excuse me, the other type of Tubi and other type of fast type channels. He has a services where he creates translation and dubbing services for other creators. That brings in money up to 13 different languages. He has a philanthropy company that kind of gives things out. And I think that's how he was able to create that. You see that YouTube video where he helped those people who were blind? It was like a
Yes.
surgery. And so I think that may have been part of that, as well as creating original content. He has one called Game Changers, which is basically merch, all the merch you see. He created a software company called ViewStaps, which is against trying to beat against TubeBuddy,
Yeah.
all those analytics. He said, look, I know the best analytics and how to get the best thumbnails. Matter of fact, my team is trying it out. Yeah, it's okay. But I digress. He does investments. So
Yeah.
obviously he's got Feastables. We talked about that. That's his brand around food and icons and things like that. Mr. Beast Burger. He's going to dabble into mobile games. I don't think that's launched yet, but they said 2025. He's going to get
Right.
some beverages going. And then finally real estate. All this stuff he's filming is something that's on his big land out in Greenville, Carolina. And this is something that he's building out his real estate empire. So yeah, Mr. Beast is about that money, man. As a creative yourself, Mr. Benja, how do you feel about this guy and how he just reshaped what it meant to be a influencer?
So this is a massive, I don't know the exact word for it, but he's literally taking everything that he's doing, everything that he's into, everything that's around his lifestyle, and making it into a business machine. People say, why is he making mobile games? Mr. Beast has a gaming channel, and a lot of the people who watch him are gamers, and he does spend a lot of time gaming. So it's one of those things of, hey, if I'm doing it, why am I not making money off of it? So he can spin that into gaming. And there are a lot of developers out there who may not have a connection with the gaming world. And he's, you know what? I had this idea. I want to play a game that's like this, and you're making a game like this. Why don't you throw my face on it, some of my visuals on it, my styling, and let's make it into a Mr. Beast thing. Same thing with the food. A lot of these people who are YouTubers and gamers, they sit around and they snack a lot. So what does he do? He creates Beast Feastables and Beast beverages and these things that you can just he's living the same life. He's just putting a business behind it because he doesn't have to in this era, in this climate. He doesn't have to rely on these outside influences and outside factors. Before,
Mhm.
several years ago, this would seem crazy. It's, dude, you're going to go up against Coca-Cola. Are you stupid? And he's, no, I run a show and I'm going to put my drink next to me every time I start up the show. They can't stop me. Before, if you tried to go on Fox and bring your own drink, they'd be like, excuse me, we have a deal with Coca-Cola. You can't bring your own drink. So I think he's just realizing that, holy crap, it's the internet. I can bring all this stuff to the forefront myself. I don't have to wait on a philanthropy company that's got to deal with the Boys and Girls Club of LA if I want to get into whatever stadium. I just do it. And I think he's trying to realize that across all these different areas. It's pretty fascinating. That's what I think.
And I think remember we did a YouTube on, was it Rob, was it Dradek? Is that how you pronounce it?
Rob Dyrdek,
Right.
yes.
Dradek. Remember how he did it? He just known in the skateboard community, right? And he just went
The
all
host of
in on that.
Ridiculousness.
Yeah, ridiculous. Thank you. Ridiculousness. And he's made multi-millions, right? Creating this content, merchandising empire. But I was just thinking that was the old way of doing it, the way he did it. You have one little niche brand or something, you exploit that as much as you can. You have a product, service, or offering. And then what he did from there was then he created media brands, right? From there, right? With ridiculousness. And was it Big Rob and was it Rob and Big was the show he had on MTV all those years?
Rob
Uh
Big, yeah.
yeah, Robin Big and all that kind of stuff, Fantasy Factory, all that kind of stuff. So he created the media empire after the fact. Now we're seeing the opposite happening. People are creating these audiences now. And Mr. Beast, he's got 278 million subscribers. That's more than YouTube, Netflix. And so he's got the audience. So now he's got the audience attention. And that's only possible because of YouTube's advertising mechanism, right? Where they share in that profit advertising. If he didn't have that, I don't think Mr. Beast would be just, oh, that's a cute little guy doing his thing. But because he was able to mass such a big audience and get money from that, because he's been doing that. That's all he did for like years, right? He didn't have any of this other stuff. Just in the last, 4 years or so, he started having products and merch and stuff like that. But I think this is the new way. Build the audience first, and then you build out the products after that. And I think he's showing us this is the future of how you build businesses. You don't build business before. And I talked to somebody on the plane about this. This is interesting. And I think
Okay.
Myron Goldman, who told me this? No, was it? I'm trying to think who said this to me first that gave me this idea. But the way we do business now, back in the day, remember what the constraint was? It was
No.
getting the materials and the capital and just
Okay.
having the materials to build a business, right? You had to go to legal, you had to get a building. Very few people would do that. So the barrier to entry was tougher. Now that stuff is easy to get. You can get started LLC in 10 minutes, right? You can get a website up in 5. So that's not
Yeah.
hard. The hardest part is the audience. How you gonna get that attention so you funnel them into your business? So it has totally flipped now where it's not so much about the supply. Could you give them something? You can give them anything, but it's more about the demand. Can you generate the demand? And I
Yeah.
think Mr. Beast has shown us that's the new way of building businesses in 2024.
Yeah, even with the whole deliver food to you thing. That was one thing that I was thinking about with his ghost kitchens.
Mhm.
It's,
Oh,
you know,
real quick, that's why we got this information because that whole thing would belly up, and so they're suing him. Ghost Kitchen guys are suing him because
yeah,
they're like, he's making all this money. I'm not making this money, and he said, well, go to court. Let's see what you're making.
yeah.
But
Oh
yes,
man.
Ghost Kitchens.
Yeah, it was the same kind of concept. He had the attention, and then it's that kind of click realization or innate knowing in his case, where it's like, oh, wait a minute. McDonald's is worried about getting on every corner. What if I get on every corner of the internet? What if I
Mm.
get on every corner of people's minds where they're thinking about if they're in my silo of influence, gaming, talking about weird stuff, just being on YouTube. If I can get them in all those areas, then I can just bring the product to them. It doesn't matter. Quality be damned. That's like,
Pretty much.
it's just
I've never, let's be fair, I've never tasted Feastable. I never had a Mr. Beast burger, so I can't say it's not. But I will tell you this: I did a test for my kids. I said, "Oh, they were like Prime. I gotta have Prime, right? That's the
yeah,
KSI and what's his name? The other
Paul.
influencer, Paul. Yeah, Paul Logan Paul. Their drink that it came out with. So all the kids was like, I gotta have one. I gotta have one. So I said, okay, guys, make sure you want it. So taste it first. Taste it after you want it and see what you think. So, oh, we want it. We want it. So we got all these Prime drinks. They taste one. Oh, this is nasty. I said, welcome to marketing. James,
Oh,
put this out there, Mr. James. Go ahead and do it. Because yes, marketing 101, the product may not be good. And that's a challenge now, Mr. Benja, when the model has
yeah,
been flipped now, where we're trying to get attention first and the product second. 9 times out of 10, unfortunately, the product's gonna be garbage because they
yeah,
put too much time in the marketing and getting your attention.
yeah. Jesse Itzler was talking about that too. He was actually sad about it. He was like, yeah, the way it is now, I got the attention and they're like, hey, we want a product from you. And you're like, I haven't made this out to the level I think that my generation would accept, but this is your generation. So let me just try to throw something out there. And he actually was talking about how he got nervous because when he threw something out there and people didn't like it, it reflected on him.
Mhm.
But he had to realize that we're in a different landscape now, and it's a little more okay if they don't like it. You'll just try again with something later. And he was saying
Exactly.
how he had to get over that idea of giving somebody a bad product. He had to pull a
Mm.
Kylie Jenner and just be like, "Hey, give him a bad product," and then have the discussion about, "Hey, you didn't this? Oh, I'm sorry," and go back and forth. Whole new world, man.
It's a whole new world, man. Because even you talking that, I know you're like me somewhere, right? It's, ugh, I can't put stuff out there that's garbage because blah, 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 blah. We just weren't raised that way, right? That's just not our mentality. But that's the world. You're right. I'm listening to all these marketers, man. Like I was telling you, just listen, being in Dan Henry's group and listen to what he's doing, and obviously what I saw with Rod Pineda. Man, they put stuff out all the time, and a lot of stuff doesn't work or it's not the greatest, and they just keep rolling. I'm like, how are they not losing brand? I just always had this concept of brand was just this big golden thing that you didn't want to touch, and you start
Yeah,
chipping away at it, it becomes nothing. I don't think that's the case anymore. It's almost like you make your brand part the way you make your brand is part of you have to add into that characteristic of your brand is so, hey, we're always improving. Give us a chance. And that way that keeps your brand from deteriorating too much if you set the audience for that expectation. So it's just like, man, this is a new world, man. And I love it, man. That's why we do this podcast. I'm keep putting stuff on YouTube because I know, man, I'm a believer. You got to build your audience.
yes, yes. Thank you for that. I needed that. Speaking of needing things, man, I need some more artificial intelligence. In fact, I need it in all my Apple products. You mind if we round out with this one?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
All right. So the Apple Worldwide Developer Conference 2024 just happened, and it was a big thing as always. And then, of course, all the Android users came out throwing tomatoes and empty cans. They're throwing banana peels at Apple. But
Boo, get off the stage. James, you
we
gotta
had,
put that in. People booing AI. I love it.
yeah, we've had that feature for 7 years now. Why? And you're calling it new? No, it's Apple new, and it's different and it's awesome. So Apple,
Marketing. Hey, Mr. Benja, real quick. I know we're gonna get to this, but every
yeah,
time we hear somebody do a marketing spin, just the King Wayne's movie, a message, we're gonna just say marketing. Go ahead.
yeah. Yeah, so they're finally integrating AI into all of their products, and they've got a new secure way of doing it. Elon Musk was infuriated. I'm supposing he's not an Apple user. He went off on Apple saying it's the most unsecure thing. If they do this, Apple products will not be allowed at any of the offices of companies that he owns. He was seriously like, we're if they do this, we're just gonna say you can't bring them into the door unless they're in a Faraday bag and they get locked away, and no iPhones, no tablets, no iPads. And he started going off on him. And I look, and Apple on X has no posts. So it can't, no one's sure. Oh, I'm not sure if Apple removed all their posts or Twitter, or not Twitter, or if Elon removed all their posts. But it was a big brouhaha. And I'm like, what is going on? And apparently, this whole Apple Chat GPT connection is pretty deep. Apple's got its own artificial intelligence and they're integrating Chat GPT. So there are like two systems that are going to be in there working for you. And it's going to be integrated into all the products. It's going to be integrated into Siri, the text you type. It's pretty fascinating. How are you feeling about this, man?
You know what? I sent you a link and maybe we'll put it out there too. This old Sam Jackson commercial. I don't know if you got a chance to look at that. I sent you where he was talking to Siri, and that was the vision of what Siri is going to do right for you. And that was like what 12 years ago, Mr. Benja. And Siri was a flop. Let's be honest. Apple, of all his marketing prowess and all that, they sold us on Siri, but it was not a good product. And so now they're realizing that they need help. And so
Better
this
than
is interesting.
Cortana.
What better than what?
Cortana.
Oh, I don't even
The
know what that is
You never know
exactly, huh?
Cortana? Okay. That was that was Microsoft's thing. They took the sexy robot character Cortana, who was in the skin tight
Oh,
digital outfit. They
yeah, I
used
remember.
Cortana and decided to say, "Hey, it'll be a good idea if we have an AI or a robot assisted presence on our Microsoft phones or Microsoft products. And yeah, so and
Oh,
everybody
yeah.
says Siri's bad. I said Cortana was worse. Carry on.
So, if yeah, Siri was good, or I don't know what they obviously Apple's got. I think in that time they released the Apple TV and all this other stuff, so they probably took their eye off the ball and focused on more on the product development side of the devices themselves. I think AirPods came out after Siri, or yeah, I think they did, which makes sense. As Apple is really known for hardware, not software. The software is good. Let's be honest, is the integration, all that, and simple, but it's really about hardware. So for them not to invest more in AI is travesty. But here we are now. OpenAI is eating everybody's lunch instead of beating them. Let's do well. And this is interesting, man. There's so many subplots to here, man. So OpenAI, Apple getting together that disrupts two other big players. Number one, it disrupts the whole Google connection to Apple because anytime you open up Safari, Google is powering that search engine, and to the tune of $20 billion that Google pays Apple every year to do that, to make that the default search engine. So now we have Siri and OpenAI maybe being responsible for your searches now. That's going to eat at Google's money. Then you had Microsoft, who spent what upwards of billions of dollars into OpenAI as a partner, and they announced some of their AI integrations. Right, one that didn't go over as well. We'll talk about later, but Microsoft and Apple have always been at odds with each other too. PC versus Mac. It's the OpenAI and Apple getting together is very interesting. And the other thing is they're not paying each other for this relationship. Only thing OpenAI is paying it what every app developer is paying at 30% toll, right? For people to use it. But Apple is not paying, not forcing OpenAI of a licensing fee like they do for Google, at least yet. So this is interesting, Mr. Benja, and it's under the brand of Apple Intelligence. So, like you said,
Yeah.
OpenAI is one avenue they can go down to provide LLMs to large language models to their audience via the Apple phone. But what's to say they don't develop their own or they connect them to other AI LLMs over time? So it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah. And this is why I wanted to pause when I was looking through the information. It's it's an integration, but it's not wholesale licensing ChatGPT. There's more going on under the hood where Apple systems are accessing ChatGPT and formatting information in some way. So I hadn't found all the technical details and how it's working, but it's actually quite a bit of back and forth between the cloud, Apple servers, your personal information, your local
Mhm.
information. There's a bit of dancing that they're doing here. They're not just saying, "Oh, we're giving all of your information that Apple has to OpenAI and ChatGPT." It's not that straightforward, not that simple, and Apple's all about security, so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, but I am excited to jump on and be like, "Hey, Apple, I need you to take this keynote and do this and put it through numbers. Give me a spreadsheet that does this and that." I didn't like it when Google was talking about it, but for some reason I like it when Apple's talking about it.
Interesting,
Fanboy.
really. I'm yeah, hashtag fanboy on your side. I'm close getting close to Elon Musk on this, right? Apple has yeah, they can't build their own AI. That's just weird to me, number one. But to be fair, the whole algorithm that started ChatGPT was created by Google, and they never created an AI that took the world by fire. So anyway, so that's a whole nother issue. But now he's saying that protecting your security and privacy, which is yeah, I think the challenge is the data is going to be so key with AI algorithms now. Man, I think people need to protect it to their detriment too. I think these things are going to be so powerful. You're going to have to protect your data at all costs, man. I wouldn't trust any kind of closed AI system, in my opinion. And something what Facebook is doing, the Open AI project, I'm open to that a little bit because it's open source. More people are putting more thoughts into it and we can see more. Whereas what OpenAI, they even talked about, I don't know if you saw that recently, they're talking about banning a little bit of the nonprofit angle, right? Remember this whole theory with OpenAI
Right,
was
right,
that it
right.
was going to be open and allow people to have a board that protects them, the AI from getting out of control. But Sam Altman, he's on this take over the world stuff, man. And so it's getting a little scary and it's a closed business too. So I think, and of course, Elon because he wants to benefit his AI system and
Yeah.
all that. Must look, they're all evil villains. Let's just put it this way: it's like Lex Luthor, Doctor Doom. Wait a minute, Lex Luthor, Doctor Doom. Who's another big villain out there? The Green Goblin.
Yeah.
They both all want to kill the Justice League and Spider Man. But guess what? But they got different ways of doing it. So that's what's happening right now between Musk, Elon, Zuckerberg, and whoever is over at Google. But I think, I don't know, man, Mr. Benja, it's going to be an interesting time. So it seems like you're for Apple Intelligence. I'm down on it. Does that sound about right?
That sounds about right. My phone will be smarter than yours.
Man, I'm going back to Android.
It will definitely be
man.
strange. But yeah,
I love it.
We'll see what happens. This is definitely pros and cons, pluses, minuses on all ends of the spectrum. So will be interesting.
I love it. I love it. I think I have a title for this show, so we're gonna put it out there. But anyway, everyone, thanks for listening. This has been a great show. As always, please like, subscribe, and comment at Show versus Business on X, YouTube, and Instagram. Listen to us at Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And you want to check us out, learn more of what we do, go visit us at the website at Show versus Business. I'm Mr. Benja. Have a good one.
Peace.